What is going on, guys? This is All Gaming with my review of Akame got killed episode 23. And this episode, obviously, there are going to be a ton of mixed feelings about this. But to be honest, though, even though this episode, of course, it was like mainly filler. It was obviously, all of it was filler. I still actually did kind of like it. That ending right there, it did surprise me because obviously, how many series do you know where they will actually kill off a main character, but they always say that in a Akame got killed, you should never get attached to anyone. But I always thought though that Tatsumi being our main guy here, I at least thought that he would like make it through, through to the end, even if it is an anime only ending. I thought at least we would see him in the final episode. But that right there, it completely gone out in the window now as he was actually killed, in this episode right here. But the episode itself, we have Leone, Tatsumi, and Akame. They are of course in their base, and we see now Akame. She had like these two. He had this one plate with like two pieces of meat on there, and as usual we have Leone teasing Tatsumi. But we see now, there was like one scene where we see Akame, starting to eat, and then we go back to her and she like already done. That right there was crazy. But I do like the bond between like Leone and Tatsumi, because even though she always teases him, they are pretty close, because he always calls her his big sister. So that right there does show how close they are. But we do see now that Night Raid, they have one final mission, and after that they will all go their separate ways, because obviously after they complete this, there will be no reason for Night Raid to be around anymore. And their final mission now is to actually go in there and kill the prime minister, because obviously he is the source of all the corruption in the capital, and pretty much over the entire kingdom. Because this guy, he is just like he pretty much using the emperor as a front, and this guy is like the true emperor, which is why they have to kill him rather than like killing the child. But of course that right there would not be an easy task. And we have non-gender leaving this army of course, fodder characters. And I almost forgot that at the beginning of the episode, we have Wave now at Karome's grave. And even though he knows how the capital can be, he still cannot like abandon them, because there was like this one soldier that he idolized so much that he's like willing to actually stick with the capital no matter what. But it was definitely nice though that he was there. And we see now that when he left, he also left Chrome Snack there as well. That right there was nice, and I am glad that that they did get some closure with her. But I'm pretty sure her death is still kind of haunting him, because obviously these two definitely got close. And especially from like what she said in last week's episode, I'm pretty sure those words will like always stick with him. But we see now that while Najenda is leaving that army, on the front line, we have our Night Raid members. They actually broke in through like some weak wall or ground in the kingdom, so or castle, whatever you want to call it. So that right there was interesting. But we do see that when they first entered this room, we had all these knights. And we have Akame, telling them that they only came here for their target. So if they don't want to lose their lives, then they can't leave. But of course, that right there, it's not going to happen. But we have Run coming in there, and Run actually wants these men to go away as well, because if they stay there, then obviously they'll just be in the way while he's taking on Night Raid. And so now we see, or we have Run here, even though he knows how evil the capital is, and even though he had a grudge against them, he cannot betray them like to join Night Raid, because Night Raid involves too much bloodshed. And his plan is to change it from the inside out, because we actually learned that Run here was a teacher, and he had these kids that were like killed by some bandit. And I do use air quotes when I say that, because if you all read the manga, then you know who killed those kids, which is why I am still kind of upset that that they skip over that, because who killed those kids that were like being taught by Run, that plays a huge part in the story. but sadly, in anime, they skipped that entirely. So they used like the name, Bandit, who we all know that was not the case. But now we see that the capital, they did not actually, classify that as a crime, and they pretty much went over it because this village, it was like very poor, and so that right there is why Run had a grudge against them, and it's also why he wants to change it. So even though he has pretty much the perfect reason to join Night Raid, he won't. And we even see now that Leone, she actually punches this pillar off, and she plans using that as a bet. But she first tells Tatsumi and Akame that to go on ahead, because obviously she will stay here to take on Run. And we see now that when they leave, and we have Leone trying to attack him with that pillar, we have Run here actually revealing his trump card, which is the blue energy wings. And I will say, the animation on those wings, they look pretty freaking good. I definitely like them a lot. But now we go to the Emperor, the Prime Minister, and all these knights. And we see now these knights, they had the very weird body shapes. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that had noticed that. But I have a feeling though that they weren't human, especially from the way they were sounding. They never talked at all, but they did make these very, very strange sounds when they fight. So I don't believe they were human, which could explain why we never saw them. But we see now that Tatsumi, he was the first one to arrive, and we have Akame coming through a window. And for some reason, they added a slow motion to her when she was descending, and that angle, for some reason, I don't know why, but I find it kind of amusing. But now we see Tatsumi, he was trying to reach out to the Emperor, because obviously, obviously they have no reason to take out the Emperor, where it's the Prime Minister that is the source of all this. But we see now that the Prime Minister, he has such a great influence on the Emperor that Tatsumi words, even though they were true and they had this great value to them, they just would not reach his ears. And so now we see that at the end, that the Emperor, he actually called for this Supreme Imperial Arm. Now I dare forget the name of it, but this thing was freaking huge, and you could see it even from a distance. It looked pretty even at a distance, it still looked pretty freaking huge. And so now we see that the Emperor, he uses this Imperial Arm, and we see now that it fires these energy beams. And they call and they can create this huge explosion, and that right there was insane, because you see him attacking randomly, and he hardly target any of the Night Raid or people of the army. He was attacking civilians, and to me, I just didn't understand why, because we saw later on how many were hurt or dead, and it just blew my mind. And then we have Tatsumi going in there acting like he could actually attack him, but we see now that the armor, it was actually pretty freaking tough. And the Emperor and the Emperor, he was swatting Tatsumi like he was a fly. And there was this one scene where we have the Emperor. He aimed at Tatsumi, but there were also this woman and child there as well. But the Emperor shot at him with no problem at all. But luckily we have Tatsumi coming in there with that save, and luckily he rescued that woman and child, because obviously those two would have been dead if it was not for him. But once again, we have Tatsumi, keep trying to, and even though it was not working. And then we have this one scene where we have Recurso. It was definitely looking so beat up, and we have Tatsumi once again trying to convince the Emperor, trying to convince him about what he was doing was wrong. And we see now that he was actually going, to step on him, because I have a feeling that Tatsumi words, they were definitely reaching him, but the Emperor, he had refused to believe it. And then of course we have the Prime Minister egging him, on and on. Now, one thing I did find kind of strange, obviously, the Prime Minister and Tatsumi, they are humans, they are not giants, but we see at the distance, they are all from the Emperor, and yet they were all hearing each other with no problem. That right there was a bit weird, but obviously it is something that I can overlook with no problem at all. But now we see that that Wave, he came in there and saved Tatsumi from being stepped on. And even though he would not join Night Raid, even though he should, he does have he does owe Tatsumi one because back when Tatsumi worked with the Jaegers and that stuff, he did stay away from being attacked. And so now that his debt was like repaid, these two are now equal, and they were actually going to fight together, you know, to stop the Emperor, because he would not listen. He had to be stopped. And there was like this other scene where we have where we have Run and Leone. Those two were actually working together, you know, to like save civilians. And we see that one of the lasers that were like shot by the Emperor, it actually hit this tower, and this tower was like gonna fall on Run and all the people. But we have Leone, you know, like coming to the rescue, and she punches this thing, and she like sends it flying. But of course, we like see it breaking up. That right there was awesome, and I definitely was like digging Night Raid and the Jaegers, you know, fighting together. I was hoping it would happen, you know, a lot sooner, because obviously F wanted to join because she wants more fighting, she wants more chaos, because that right there is what she strives in. So obviously, you know, F would like always stick with the Prime Minister, because this guy would like send her out to take care of like rebels and stuff. But the other members though, they all had like legit reasons to betray the Jaegers and the capital and join Night Raid. But then we see now that even though Run and Tatsumi were working together, they really couldn't do much. But that was only till Tatsumi had found like some kind of weakness on the armor of the Supreme Imperial Alarm, because we saw that when he hit it, you know, it definitely started messing up, because we have all this like electricity. It started to actually, you know, shock the Emperor. But that right there is where he got kind of upset, and we see now that not only did he like send Tatsumi flying, but he also sent Wave flying as well. And that right there is where we saw Wave. He was like taken out, because we did see that he did, you know, kind of like armor down as he had reverted back to like his normal state. But then we have Tatsumi now, who would not give up, even though the Emperor was like pretty much begging him to give up, because obviously the Emperor, he did not want to do this, but he pretty much had no choice, because the Prime Minister, he was saying that like he had to assert like his dominance, which is why he was like doing this. But now we see that Bulan, when he came back, holy crap, it was like feels overload, because I always like the bromance between Bulan and Tatsumi, you know, anime and manga. So especially in the manga, when he died, I was definitely upset. But the fact now that he came back, and we see him now, you know, and we see his spirit encouraging Tatsumi, bro, I am not kidding. I was like, I was just so happy to see that, because it was just so freaking fantastic. I loved it. But now he Tatsumi, he gets up, and once again he calls out Incursio. But now we see now that the armor is once again involving, just like Akame said. But this time when the Emperor, you know, fires at him, we see now that Incursio has evolved. Now I will point this out. It was definitely interesting how White Fox, you know, the studio that actually does this, it was kind of impressive how they took a very similar concept, you know, Incursio evolving again now, because that right there did happen. That like if you read the manga, then you know that like something like that happened, you know, like something like that happened in the manga, you know, like recently. And so the fact now that the fact now White Fox took that idea and used it, I like a part of me wants to applaud them, but obviously, you know, the manga version, you know, the real version, it is superior, you know, to an anime only version. But now we see now, you know, Tatsumi in his new form. We saw him, you know, once again punch his weak spot, but we see that this right here was like putting too much of a strain on his body, and we even have Wave, you know, telling him, you know, he'll die if he keeps this up. But Tatsumi says, you know, that right there won't happen, because he made a promise. And then we see, you know, Shelley, Bulan, Chelsea, Tusano, Lubok, Mime. We saw all the ones that had died so far, and that right there was also very emotional. And we even have, you know, Akame calling out to Tatsumi, because obviously, you know, she knew that something was wrong. And we see now that like Tatsumi actually punched through Supreme Imperial arm, and that right there was awesome. But he looked so beat up, and not only that, because Tatsumi hurt it so much, it like powered down. And it like started to fall, and it was actually gonna fall on these people. But we had Tatsumi, flying in there, and he actually, used his body to stop it. And that right there was like pretty impressive. Like we see how badly he's beat up. He has like some kind of like claw, something going through his body, and yet he was still protecting people. But of course, when like he was done, we have Akame coming to him. And he actually apologized for not keeping his promise, because we actually see him die in her arms. And like Akame said, he promised her, and now we have her crying again. And so afterwards we have the emperor who's still alive, of course, but of course he was defeated. And we had SDF there as well, and she says Tatsumi died, and that right there is where the episode ends. So like I said, a very emotional episode, but to be honest, I liked it a lot. Even though it was filler, to me it was good. We got that shock value that like Tatsumi is actually dead, because let's be honest, who thought that he would die 1 week before the final episode? Because next week we're actually gonna have this huge fight between SDF and Akame, so that right there should be good. But like I said, this episode, I loved it. I'm actually going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Even though, I am trying to take my manga bias out of my reviews, because obviously I do read the manga, and because they change it, I don't want to like downgrade it too heavily, which is why I'm giving it an 8.5. Because if I was like a manga fanboy, I'd probably give it a lot lower grade. But like I said, to me, I like the episode. But as always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And I really want to get your guys' thoughts on this. But as always, you guys take it easy. I'll see you all next time.